I smoothed the hem of my midnight blue dress, a minimalist Stella McCartney piece though no one here would guess it, and lifted another tray of sparkling wine. Around me, the Ridgemont Country Club's ballroom glittered with floor-length gowns, cufflinks, and carefully curated small talk. It was the annual holiday benefit my mother hosted in Charleston, South Carolina, where appearances mattered more than affection. A year ago at this very event, they toasted my cousin Isabel for landing a senior director role at a New York hedge fund. Tonight I was just staff. Cameron, sweetheart. My mother's voice had that soft, sugary edge she used when cloaking a dig in sweetness. The Langstons are empty. Please be quick about it. I nodded, saying nothing. The Langstons, whose trust fund I quietly managed through one of my discreet fintech ventures in Zurich. Still doing the catering circuit? Isabel's voice chimed in as she glided beside me in sequins and smugness. Or was it event work now? Something like that in Berlin, right? If by event work she meant structuring cross-border acquisitions as CEO of Novastar Capital Group, then sure. I let the silence linger, balancing my tray as I walked past. Oh, Cameron, she added with mock concern. Mother said to send you to the kitchen once you're done out here. The hired help is falling behind. The hired help. They meant the culinary team I'd flown in from Lyon. Paid, of course, through an anonymous grant under my holding company's philanthropy arm. The caviar, the baccarat glassware, even the lighting design. They'd all been arranged under aliases. Let them think it was coincidence. Cameron, my stepfather's voice thundered across the ballroom. Ice, the Densons are running low. The Densons, my newest acquisition target. Their agritech startup had begged for capital in last week's meeting. Denied, of course. They'd never guessed that the woman refreshing their drinks had nixed the deal. As I crossed the room, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I paused behind a pillar and checked it. Message from Adia Nakamura. Subject, Singapore deal. Closed at $68.00. M. Investor board approved APAC expansion. Next steps? I typed my reply with one hand. In a meeting. We'll follow up after. I looked out over the crowd, laughing, clinking glasses, blissfully unaware. In an hour, the MC would tap the mic, hush the room, and announce the surprise keynote speaker for the evening. Yeah. And suddenly, the girl in the midnight dress wouldn't be just the help anymore. We'll call later, I typed back, slipping the phone into my clutch. Let them think I was tied up in a mundane business call. Easier than explaining I was serving drinks at my mother's holiday fundraiser because my family still saw me as their directionless disappointment. Who's texting you now? Isabel reappeared, her voice sugary with sarcasm. She twirled the stem of her champagne flute between manicured fingers. Your manager at that little import shore thing in Berlin? Still hanging on to that? I smiled faintly. That little import-offshore thing was now a logistics holding entity spanning 3 continents. But sure, let them think I was scrambling for hours just to make rent. Just work, I murmured, glancing across the ballroom. Speaking of which... Oh, Cameron, Mom interrupted, suddenly beside us, glittering in a floor-length emerald gown. Did you hear? Isabel just wrapped another major acquisition for her firm. $10 million in quarterly bonuses alone. Isn't that fantastic? I nodded politely, hiding the fact that I'd cleared that before 9:00 a.m. this morning from a leveraged buyout in Taiwan. Very impressive, I offered. Dad emerged from a cluster of donors, the Densons trailing behind him with polite smiles. Isabel's really showing what a Hamilton can accomplish with proper focus and discipline, he beamed, unlike others. I caught the slight tremor in Mr. Denson's hand as he reached for his flute. Understandable, since my firm had just declined their last-ditch financing proposal days ago. Not everyone's cut out for corporate life, Isabel chimed in, eyeing the tray in my hands. Some of us find our niche. Some, well, she gestured delicately, keep wandering. Mom sighed, placing a hand on her pearl necklace. We gave Cameron everything, Swiss schools, Ivy League internships, but she always insisted on doing things differently. Remember when she turned down that analyst job Isabel secured at Morgan? Wanted to build something of her own, Isabel said, air quoting. Now she's pouring drinks. I suppose someone has to. I checked my phone again. A new message lit up the screen. Royal Investment Council, confirmed. Buckingham Palace breakfast. Jet is fueled and cleared. Mom noticed and tutted. Always glued to that phone. No wonder you can't hold down a proper job. Actually, I began. Oh, let her scroll. Isabel cut in. She's probably checking for gig shifts. Poor thing. Dad gave a theatrical sigh. At least pitch in tonight. The kitchen crew's behind on cleanup. Something inside me shifted. For 3 years, I'd worn this disguise, fading into the background, letting them believe I'd failed. 3 years of funding this party, their charities, even their vacation homes, all through anonymous endowments. I set down the tray with deliberate calm. I really should go, I said softly. Where to? Isabel scoffed. My meeting, I replied, lifting my chin. They don't like to wait. And with that, I walked toward the front doors, where my car and my driver were already waiting. The keynote speaker was about to make her entrance. And tonight, they'd finally learn my name. If you've ever been underestimated, you won't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe to the channel, because when Cameron steps up to the mic, everything changes. Isabel's laugh rang out loud and shrill, turning heads across the ballroom. A meeting? At this hour? With who? Some kitchen porter doing night shift rotations? Her grin widened. Cameron. Enough, Mom snapped, her tones sharpening like cut glass. You'll stay and help clean up? It's the least you can do after everything we spent on this night. All this expense? The venue, the orchestra, the rare Bordeaux they paraded like a family heirloom? It had all come from my bank accounts, quietly funneled through 3 holding firms and 2 anonymous donors. Isabel turned to the crowd, raising her glass in mock toast. The help doesn't leave until the job's done, right? Isn't that right, sister dear? The cluster of donors and family friends chuckled, eyes flicking to me with a mixture of pity and judgment. They thought they knew exactly who I was. The Densons, begging for capital to keep their manufacturing firm alive. The Langstons, whose hedge fund I quietly bailed out last winter. Isabel, boasting about a $10 million 0-cent deal that wouldn't even move my financial needle. My phone buzzed again. James. Cars are ready, weather clear for London, pilot standing by. I looked down at the tray in my hands, then around the room. The champagne I was serving? Paid for. The gala centerpieces? Designed under my foundation's event arm. The very walls of this ballroom? Leased long-term by a subsidiary I'd purchased last spring. Maybe it was time to remind them exactly who they'd been underestimating. Actually, I said, setting the tray down gently, I do have an important meeting to get to. Dad's face turned crimson. More important than your mother's charity gala? More important than family? Isabel rolled her eyes. What, are you helping someone restock grocery shelves tonight? I smoothed the front of my dress, a tailored piece from Milan. The Patek Philippe on my wrist ticked with polished indifference. Something like that, I replied, checking the time. You are not leaving, Mom snapped, stepping forward. You'll stay and clean, Cameron. That's all you're good for. Silence fell. Guests turned, fascinated. An argument? Or a scandal? Perfect. I smiled calmly and raised my phone. Let me just make a quick call. Gasps and whispers filled the space as I dialed. Isabel looked gleeful, savoring what she assumed would be another embarrassing outburst. James, I said clearly, please come up and bring the Henderson contracts with you. Mr. Denson choked mid-sip. What? Before anyone could speak, the ballroom doors swung open. James stepped in first, immaculate as ever in a dark tailored suit. Behind him, my executive team entered in formation, briefcases in hand, expressions cool and professional. He bowed slightly. Madam. The jet is fueled and ready, James continued smoothly. Also, the royal family's investment advisors have moved the meeting to a breakfast session at Buckingham Palace. They're eager to finalize terms on the merger. You could have heard a pin drop. Isabel's smirk vanished, confusion flickering across her face before giving way to something closer to panic. "Thank you, James," I said calmly. I turned to Mr. Denson, whose face had gone waxy pale. "Apologies for the secrecy. I wanted to evaluate your company's potential firsthand before disclosing my role. Unfortunately, as CEO of Novastar Capital Group, I don't believe your current structure is sustainable without immediate reform." "Novastar?" my mother whispered, her voice barely audible. "But that's the largest private investment firm in Europe," I supplied gently, "and expanding globally." I glanced at Isabel. "That little import company you've all mocked? Just one of our dozens of subsidiaries." Dad took a step back, his expression vacant. "You couldn't. That's impossible." "Couldn't what?" I asked, tilting my head. "Couldn't build a global firm from scratch? Couldn't become the youngest female CEO on the Financial Times 500? Couldn't do it all while serving your drinks and cleaning your kitchens?" Isabel stumbled, one hand gripping the back of a chair. "But I'm the one who succeeded. I'm Senior VP at Goldman." "Right," I said, nodding. "About that." I gestured, and Daniela, my chief of global acquisitions, stepped forward, crisp folder in hand. "Goldman's board finalized our acquisition of your division this morning," Daniela said briskly. "Effective next week, you'll be reporting to our Asia-Pacific director, assuming we decide to retain your position." The murmurs started then, low at first, spreading like electricity across the ballroom. "This gala," I said, sweeping a hand across the room, "funded entirely by me via 4 shell companies. The building you're standing in? Purchased last June. And the champagne? Bottled from my vineyard in Provence." Mom collapsed into a chair, clutching her pearls as if they could protect her pride. Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell us?" I gave a soft laugh. "Would you have listened? You didn't even trust me with an entry-level analyst role. So I let you believe what you wanted." Dad's face contorted. "Cameron, "You needed me," I said quietly. "That's the difference. The Denson's miracle recovery last year? That wasn't fate, it was me. Under a pseudonym. That anonymous investor group that saved your firm from bankruptcy? Also me." Isabel turned an alarming shade of green. "And the London meetings you couldn't stop bragging about," I added. A tall, silver-haired man stepped forward from my team, English accent crisp. "She was meeting with me. I oversee Novastar's UK operations." I turned back to the stunned crowd, my voice steady. "You all thought I was invisible, but you built your empire on my silence." Every head turned as Lord Sheffield entered the ballroom, exuding the effortless poise of old money and international power. His tailored overcoat still bore traces of Charleston's night breeze. "Terribly sorry I'm late, Cameron," he said, his voice rich with a refined British accent. "Traffic from the airfield was simply ghastly." "Quite all right, Charles," I smiled. "You're just in time for the finale." My mother's eyes widened, flicking between me and Lord Sheffield, her social instincts kicking in despite her stunned expression. You know each other?" "Oh, very well," Lord Sheffield chuckled. "Her firm manages the majority of the royal family's private investment accounts. Brilliant woman, truly. I'm often just trying to keep up." He turned to me, shaking his head playfully. "Though I must admit, I didn't expect to find you handing out flutes of champagne." "That was intentional," I said evenly. "I wanted to see how long my family would keep underestimating me while living off the fruits of my work, unaware." James stepped forward, phone in hand. "Madam, we should depart shortly if we intend to arrive for the London breakfast." I turned to face the room, my family frozen in place, expressions split between shock, confusion, and dawning regret. "I'd stay and help with the cleanup," I said. "But I have a meeting at Buckingham Palace in 10 hours. I'm sure you'll understand." "Cameron, wait." Mom stood suddenly, her hands trembling. "We can talk, as a family." "Family?" I paused, letting the word hang in the air. Family doesn't mock their daughter's ambition. Family doesn't dismiss her, then quietly take the credit for her success. My voice was cool but resolute. But don't worry, I'll have my CFO forward the invoices for all the events I've covered, since family means so much to you. Isabel stepped forward quickly, her earlier arrogance now replaced with practiced concern. Sister, surely we can. Can what? I asked. Pretend a little longer? Keep the illusion going while you flash around titles that I technically own? She opened her mouth, but I cut in. Enjoy your new role in the Asia Pacific office. I hear junior analysts there work quite a bit harder than VP. Dad finally found his voice. You can't just walk out on your family. I looked him in the eye. Watch me. I nodded to James. He opened the grand ballroom doors and I walked forward. The crowd instinctively parted, whispers chasing my heels like shadows. Lord Sheffield fell in beside me, his grin restrained but unmistakable. Well played, he murmured. Worth flying in early. Thank you for the theater, I replied softly. The royal breakfast detail really sealed it. Oh, that part's real, Lord Sheffield grinned as we stepped into the private elevator. Her Majesty is thoroughly impressed with your investment strategy, though I doubt she imagined her top financial advisor handing out champagne at charity functions. I laughed, the tension finally beginning to ease from my shoulders. I figured it was the most efficient way to watch them reveal themselves. As the doors began to close, I caught one last glimpse of the ballroom, of my past. Mom sat slumped in her chair, eyes hollow. Dad stared into the distance, stunned into silence. And Isabel? Frantically typing away on her phone, no doubt trying to salvage her collapsing career. James, I said as we descended, my voice calm, almost cheerful. Make sure the cleaning staff receives a generous bonus tonight. He nodded. Absolutely, madame. I smiled to myself, remembering Isabel's earlier jab. Someone had to serve the drinks after all. Later that evening, 40,000 feet above the Atlantic, I reclined in the leather chair of my private jet, wrapped in soft silence and starlight. My phone buzzed endlessly, notifications piling in as news of my identity surged through the social circles my family had always worshipped. Mom, Cameron, please, we need to talk. We didn't know. Isabel, about that analyst job offer, maybe we could revisit? Dad, the board wants a meeting, urgently. I deleted them all without hesitation. Instead, I turned back to the contracts spread across the polished table in front of me. One for a merger in Tokyo, another for the expansion in Sao Paulo. Let them sit in it. Let them feel the weight of what they dismissed. Let them replay every insult while realizing they were sipping champagne under the roof I owned. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't saying a word. It's letting your success speak, one glass at a time. If you've ever been underestimated by your family, your coworkers, or even yourself, then you understand what I felt standing in that ballroom. I didn't make a scene for revenge. I made a choice to stop hiding. If my story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever had to succeed in silence? I read every message, and your stories mean something to me. They remind me that we're not alone in this quiet kind of strength. And if you're still in the shadows, still building, still waiting for your moment, don't stop. Your silence doesn't make you invisible. It's your foundation. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in quiet power, in grace under pressure, in letting success speak for itself. Support people who are rising quietly. Support those building their empires without applause, because one day, like me, your name will be the one they whisper with awe.